Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. I am yours truly, and today we're going to look at week 2 of college football and give a preview of it and a prediction of it all in one video. It might be one long video, but it's all in one video. So if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It'll help the channel out so much. This isn't coming from me. It's just the way YouTube is. The more people that like the video, the more it gets recommended into the algorithm and the people's feeds, and then it kind of indirectly spreads the video out to more and more people that haven't been on the channel yet. Just a casual fan. If you want to help the channel out, you can. You don't got to if you don't want to, but I would appreciate it so much if you hit the subscribe button and the like button. So anyways, let's do a quick recap of week 1 and put my prediction record to the test to see how well I did in week 1 as far as outright and picks against the spread. As we take a look at the records here, I broke these down to 2 different sections. So the first record, you guys, just me picking the outright winner. I was 21-3. The only games I lost were the TCU and Colorado game, LSU and Florida State, and Duke and Clemson. So it comes out to an 88% rate, or 88% accurate rate, depending on if you want to round up, because it comes out to 0.875 if you put it in the calculator. Now what I did is picks against the spread, meaning not only I did predicted the winner, but I tried to predict would they cover the spread or not. I was 17-7 in that, so that's about a 70% rate. I probably need to get a little bit better, but if this was in a class, but the ultimate goal is 100%, but we're all humans here, and so are they. So you take it as it is. Then there were some games that the spread lines weren't published as I was recording it, so I just automatically gave myself a win against the spread. So, because some of the games were like Mercer and Ole Miss and Portland State and Oregon, so probably I would have picked the points too. So, let's move on to week 2. First matchup of the day is going to be Ball State going to Georgia. Georgia's going to have another tune-up game. Last week it didn't go very well for Georgia, at least for the first half. They were only like 17-0 on FCS school UT Martin, but they ended up pulling away in the second half. So right now the point spread in this one is at 42. I know that's a ton of points to cover, but I think Georgia's going to be able to cover the spread on this one. I think they're going to come out much more ready and prepared this game against Ball State than they did against UT Martin. And I think Georgia gets a win and covers the points here. Up next on the week 2 schedule is going to be Ohio State against Youngstown State. I think Ohio State's going to be able to try to fine-tune their quarterback problems that they had last week against Indiana with this game. Not much to talk about. I think Ohio State's going to win. Same with Penn State over Delaware. Same thing. Just going to fine-tune Drew Allar and that Penn State offense to work out some bugs and just tune themselves up for conference play. Then the next game after that is Notre Dame against NC State. Notre Dame, this is going to be their first real test in the season, because the first 2 games they had was against Navy and Tennessee State. They blew out both teams, so this is going to be the first game against a Power 5 opponent for Notre Dame. They have to travel on the road to NC State. Right now Notre Dame's a 7.5 point favorite. I think Notre Dame's going to be able to roll right through NC State, and I think they're going to be able to cover the points. So I think Notre Dame wins this and covers the points, because the game that I saw NC State played against UConn, they did not look very impressive. They still won, but they didn't look very good at winning. So, yeah, I get it. A win's a win, but you got if you're gonna convince me to pull for you or pull the upset for you, you gotta win in a convincing fashion, or have this false belief in my system that you get the capabilities to pull an upset off on Notre Dame. And I think this is going to be a closer game than Notre Dame has been used to, but I think Notre Dame's still going to pull out a win and cover the points in this one. Up next on the slate is a matchup between Utah and Baylor. Now, this matchup is going to be a future Big 12 matchup next year, so I wouldn't be surprised these two teams meet again in Salt Lake City possibly next year. So it's a game to watch out when Utah finally gets into Big 12. But anyways, this year it's going to be at Baylor. Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm pretty high on Utah, but because they struggled too against Florida, but it's for different reasons. I'm taking Utah on the points in this one. If I would even take Utah at a 10 or 11 point favorite, because Baylor last week they lost at home to Texas State. It wasn't like a last second field goal or a Hail Mary touchdown. They lost by 11, so they struggle mightily, and I expect Baylor to play better, but Utah's probably going to be playing better too because they struggled as well. I'm not sure about the update on Cam Rising and his health. If he's a go, yeah, definitely. I'm taking the points and the win here for Utah. But if it's not, then you might be a little bit more cautious or weary about taking the points. But I do think Utah's going to win this one on the road. Next on the matchup is another Big 12 opponent. This time it's Kansas State going up against Troy. Now, yeah, Kansas State's going to be at home against Troy in this one. Troy is a pretty good Group of 5 team coming out of the Sun Belt. I think, in fact, they won the Sun Belt last year over Appalachian State, I think, either Appalachian State or Coastal Carolina, one of those two. Yeah, I'm gonna say Kansas State gets a win here and and probably covers the points. Although this might be a closer game than the point spread indicates. And I could be very wrong, and this could be a 2-touchdown game or a 1-touchdown game for Kansas State. But I do think Kansas State gets a win, and I think they're going to cover the points too. Right now, the point spread's at 16.5. Up next is probably going to be the most watched game on the noon time slot. It's going to be Nebraska going on the road to play Colorado, and Deion's first home game as the Colorado head coach. Last week, Colorado pulled off a stunner in Fort Worth and beat TCU on the road in a thrilling game. Right now, Colorado is a 3-point favorite in this one. As much as I don't like to buy into the hype after 1 week, I'm going to have to say Colorado gets this one and takes the points. Now, Nebraska is going to be a much tougher defense to play against than TCU is. However, the Nebraska offense just doesn't exist. They could not move the ball at all against Minnesota. In fact, they pretty much shut down Minnesota throughout 3.5 quarters, and maybe 3 3/4 of the game. However, they gave up a late touchdown to Minnesota, make it 10-10. And then they threw a pick, and then Minnesota drives down the field for a field goal to win. It was a pretty embarrassing game by both teams. Not gonna lie. I just don't have enough trust in the Nebraska offense to keep possession and be able to move the ball down the field. So I think Colorado's going to get the win at home for Deion. I imagine Colorado's going to be sold out for this game too. Then next on the list is Clemson against Charleston Southern. Clemson's going to be looking for a rebound after being embarrassed by Duke on the road. They were 1 month punt away from being shut out. I better hope that Clemson wins, because if they somehow lose to Charleston Southern, you might as well just throw the season away. Just throw in the white flag and just say, you know what, we're gonna go 0-12. So I think Clemson gets a win and beats the brakes off of Charleston Southern in this one. Next, we got a 3:30 matchup between Michigan and UNLV on CBS. Just like last week, this is going to be another tune-up game. This is the second game that Harbaugh is being suspended, self-inflicted. But so they got a new intern coach leading Michigan. I do think Michigan wins this one. However, I don't think they're going to be able to cover the points in this one. Like I said with the East Carolina video last week, or when I did my predictions last week, it's going to be a new set of terminology, and Michigan definitely is going to win, but right now the point spread in this one is at 36.5, so that's a lot of points for a Michigan squad to cover with an intern coach. Not saying that UNLV's great and all. It's just, once again, there could be some miscommunication. That's what happens when you do a rotating panel of coaches to fill in for Harbaugh. I think Michigan gets this one at home. Up next on the schedule is Ole Miss and Tulane. Now, interesting enough, this is a road game for Ole Miss. Normally, when these games are scheduled, the Group of 5 team has to go to the Power 5 team stadium. Not this case. They're going to be playing this one in Tulane. And I'm just going to say, this is going to be the first upset I predict on the channel. I think Tulane's going to be a team right now. Tulane's a team that's being slept on right now. Tulane returns a lot of starters that they had last year, and I think this one, I think Tulane's going to get a win over Ole Miss. I think they're going to sneak up on Ole Miss and get a close win at home, with it being their biggest win either on the season or, well, I wouldn't say program history, but at least on the season so far for Tulane. So I think Tulane gets the win. Obviously, if Tulane wins, and Ole Miss is not going to be able to cover the spread. So, for obvious reasons, I think Ole Miss is going to be able to hang around, but I just think Tulane's going to sneak up on them and beat them. Up next on the schedule is a match between Texas A&M and Miami. Last year, this matchup was played in Texas A&M, and Texas A&M got a struggle bus win over Miami. It turns out that was probably their best win of the season, if not maybe the Arkansas win. But anyways, this year this is going to be played in Miami, and I think this game is going to be close once again. Miami's going to be improved this year than they were last year, so it's Texas A&M. I think both teams blew out their opponents. I know Texas A&M did. I'm not sure about Miami off the top of my head. I think Texas A&M is going to go into Miami and win over Miami and cover the points in this one to sweep the series. So give Texas A&M the win and and lay the points on them for A&M. Then the next matchup after that is going to be Washington against Tulsa. This is a 5 o'clock game. When I say 5 o'clock game, I mean 5 o'clock Eastern time. So if you're in other time zone, you got to figure it out on your own. So this one is at home once again for Washington. They're going up against Tulsa. Well, Tulsa's under a first-year head coach. And I think Washington's going to get the win, and I think they're also going to lay the points too. Last week they were able to blow out Boise State, probably one of the top-rated teams out of the Mountain West. Tulsa, on the other hand, is kind of a middle of the road team for the American. They're okay. Nothing screams disaster, but nothing screams great either. So, yeah, I think Washington gets this one and covers the points over Tulsa at home. Up next is Tennessee and Austin Peay. And yeah, this is a blowout. Nothing much to talk about. It's a tune-up game for Joe Milton and for his accuracy. It's all good and well if you can throw a ball 100 yards, but it doesn't mean any difference if your receiver can't catch it because you threw it too far out in front of him. Next game after that is North Carolina and Appalachian State. North Carolina's coming off a big win against South Carolina and Charlotte to open up their season, so they're going to host Appalachian State. And Appalachian State's had a history of beating the big teams before. They beat Texas A&M last year in Texas A&M. I think they even beat North Carolina like 4 or 5 years ago in Chapel Hill. However, I do think this time North Carolina wins this one and covers the points. Right now the spread's at 18. Yeah, I think North Carolina's going to be able to cover the spread. Besides, when I looked at Appalachian State, they barely won their opening game against an FCS team. Not saying that transitive property works in college football, but based on what we know so far, I just think North Carolina's going to get a win over Appalachian State. Up next, we have a matchup between SMU and Oklahoma, a ACC versus SEC matchup for next year. Shout out to the ACC guy. Yeah, this is actually when I looked at the spread, I was surprised by the spread. Right now, Oklahoma is only favored by 15.5. Either Vegas knows something about SMU that I don't, or they're really not high on Oklahoma this year. That surprised me. I figured this would be like a 20-25 point spread. But SMU's a halfway decent team from the American. They're not bad, but they're not great either. They're like Tulsa. They're right in the middle of the road. I know they had a run a couple years back with Sonny Dykes, whatever, in the top 25. However, I do think Oklahoma's going to get the win at home against SMU. And then after that is a matchup between Lafayette and Duke. Duke coming off a big win over Clemson at home last week. They host Lafayette. I think Duke is going to get the win in this one. The point spread is not available in this one, so I can't really say if they're going to be able to cover the spread or not. I imagine it. Usually the reason that they don't have the spread up there is because it's so lopsided that they don't even post the spread up there. Yeah, I think Duke is going to get this win over Lafayette. Up next is probably going to be the biggest game of week 2. You got Alabama hosting Texas. This game last year was in Austin, and Alabama barely won over Texas, despite Texas losing Quinn Ewers that game and a bunch of other things that went wrong for Texas. They were still in this game all the way down to the end, and it took Bryce Young leading them down the field for a game-winning field goal for Alabama to beat Texas. This year, you got no Bryce Young, so you got to make it work with Jalen Milroe. Almost said Jake Milroe, but it's Jalen Milroe. And plus, Quinn Ewers is going to have even more talent at wide receiver than he did last year. You still got Xavier Worthy, and you got A.D. Mitchell coming in from Georgia to help out for the Texas wide receiver room. I think Texas gets a win here on the road. And I do think had Quinn Ewers played the entire game, I think Texas would have won that game too. As you can obviously see, Texas win out. Alabama's obviously not going to be able to cover the spread. So, I think Texas gets a win in this one. And then after that big profiling game, in comes the most interesting matchup, I think, of the week. You got Oregon traveling to Texas Tech. Now, Oregon comes into Lubbock, still scoring touchdowns on Portland State. If you don't believe me, just check out the box score. And Texas Tech coming off a heartbreaking and a devastating loss to Wyoming in double overtime. Um, I think Texas Tech's going to play, and they're going to hang around with Oregon for probably about the first half, maybe in the first 3 quarters. But I think Oregon just pulls away in the fourth quarter, and I think Oregon gets a win and covers the points over Texas Tech in this one. Next on the slate is a matchup between LSU and Grambling. LSU is looking to rebound after getting the brakes beaten off of them by Florida State, and I think they will. There's not much to talk about this game. I think LSU is going to win probably about 40, 50 points over Grambling. Anyways, next matchup is Wisconsin against Washington State. Last year, this game was played in Wisconsin, and Washington State ended up pulling out a big upset in Camp Randall. This year, this is going to be played in Pullman, Washington. That's where Washington State's at. I think Wisconsin is going to be much more improved talent-wise, coaching-wise this year than they were last year. I know they struggled for a little bit against Buffalo, but it's kind of shaking off the rust with a new system that they brought in, because Wisconsin's trying to run more of an air raid attack, contrary to what they were running for years in Wisconsin. Washington State, however, had a pretty impressive win over Colorado State. I know it's Colorado State, but they had a pretty impressive win. I think Wisconsin gets payback and gets a win against Washington State, and I think they're also going to cover the points in this one. And to wrap up Week 2 college football slate, we got Florida State and Southern Miss at 8 o'clock. Florida State got a big win over LSU and looked very impressive over LSU. And I don't expect anything to change against Southern Miss. I think Florida State's going to get a win and cover the points in this one, despite being a 31-point spread. Then following that, you have a matchup between UC Davis and Oregon State. Oregon State last week looked very impressive against San Jose State. Hell, their defense looked better than USC's defense. If you want to get mad at me, just the scoreboard doesn't lie. I think Oregon State's going to get another win this time over UC Davis. And then finally, to wrap it up, you have, speaking of which, you have USC going up against Stanford. I think USC going to be able to cover the spread in this one against Stanford. I think Stanford's probably going to be the worst team. Like I said many times before, I think Stanford is going to be probably one of the worst teams, if not the worst team, in the Pac-12 this year. This is a funny fact. This is a future ACC versus Big Ten matchup. So, yeah. How about it, ACC, man? That's going to be an ACC versus Big Ten matchup starting next year. So, anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the Week 2 preview predictions for me. If you like the content, hit that like, subscribe, comment down below, whatever you got to do. I really do appreciate everybody that tunes in each and every time that I post on here. I know y'all don't got to, but I do feel not blessed, but I do feel the appreciation that people that keep coming back to watch the videos or watch my videos every time I upload. So I thank y'all for keep coming around and tuning in to my channel. I know I couldn't do it without you guys, even for a channel this size. If you got any questions or you want to ask me anything, you can hit the email below. You can also DM me on Twitter. I'll link to Twitter down in the description for y'all, so you can follow me there, or you can DM me anything within reason, obviously. Thank y'all so much, and I will see y'all next time.